Hi guys, how y'all doing? Hope you're doing well. I'm doing fantastic, thanks for asking. Because I'm sitting down with my book-loving besties. You got, oh my God, my lights. We're leaving it. Where was I? I'm sitting down with my favorite people in the world, you guys, and am about to discuss and dive into the books I read in May. But first, can we talk about the sweatshirt? Can y'all read the back? It says it's a good day to read a book. I agree. Hannah Elise Co actually sent this to me along with some other bookish goodies, which was so sweet of them, so I wanted to give them a little shout out because I love supporting small businesses. There's this cute tote bag, perfect for book shopping. A sun catcher. What? Hello, that is so cute. And then also, y'all know I love stickers. Look at all these cute stickers. Love. I need to put these in my reading journal. I'll of course link them down below. Go check them out if you want some cute bookish items. Thank you so much, Hannah. All these goodies are so fun, and I will be living in this for the foreseeable future. Thank you very much. Anyways, on to my May reads. I read 7 books this past month, plus 1 temporary DNF, which we'll get on to why that is in a little bit. I had 1 3.5, 2 3.75, 2 4, 1 4.25, and 1 5-star read. So, funny story. Before I left my apartment for the summer, I quickly grabbed the books I already read in May so I could have something to hold up because I wouldn't know what to do with my hands. But mistakes were made and I grabbed the wrong Sherry Lapina. So let's just pretend that this is A Stranger in the House. I could edit a picture of the cover over this. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. To my defense, the covers are pretty similar. Kind of. Okay, they have the same color scheme, so you can see how it went wrong. I finally picked up A Stranger in the House to read this past month so I could then spend my finals week study time instead breaking out my arts and crafts supplies and creating a book pyramid poster. Although I wouldn't put it past me to make a dedicated author poster just for fun. I did actually do all that so I could film my Sherry Lapina tier ranking video where I basically went through her backlist, gave you all a brief synopsis of each of her books, and then tier ranked them in a Abby Lee inspired Dance Moms pyramid. The video was just the right amount of chaotic, I'd say pretty informative, and an all-around classic Sarah Elizabeth fun time. So if you have not seen that video yet, I'd love it if you gave it a watch. A lot of precious time went into it. Those that don't want to watch it though, fine. I'll give you a teaser. This book is a classic woman wakes up in a coma and can't remember what led her there domestic thriller. I kind of went into this thinking I wouldn't like it since I didn't like The Couple Next Door that much, and since this was also one of Sherry Lapina's first novels, I just kind of wrote it off as another trial run thriller. So when the story kicked off and I was intrigued, I was like, wait a second, I'm actually not hating this. I'm not just reading it to get through it. I'm actually quite enjoying this. The overall thriller story I wasn't that impressed with, but it kept me hooked. I enjoyed the characters. Not a bad read. My 3.75 of the month was I Kissed Shahara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. I keep coming back to describing this book as Mean Girls meets The Inheritance Games meets Paper Towns by John Green. This YA mystery thriller follows Shahara Wheeler, Will Grove Academy's it girl. Throughout the book, we mainly follow the POV of Chloe, the girl currently tied for valedictorian with Shahara, and who is also one of the 3 people Shahara kisses and then leaves letters for the night before vanishing. The other 2 kiss receivers are Rory, the bad boy next door, and Smith, Sahara's boyfriend. So what do these teenagers do now that they are all brought together by this one thing in common, aka having been kissed by Shahara? Well, they set off and band together to untangle the clues and mystery behind Sahara's disappearance. Although throughout the whole story we're basically trying to figure out what happened to Shahara, there is still a heavy romance subplot, and I really could not guess the whole time who was going to end up with who because it seemed like everyone had chemistry with each other, which did get a bit weird. Not me shipping Chloe with literally every character. But actually with whom Chloe does end up with, I didn't really feel a strong connection between them. And just because I wasn't feeling it between the 2, does that mean they don't deserve to be together? Yes. No, of course not. I really appreciate it when books break up a story by including something like newspaper clippings in between the chapters. This book separates each chapter with a page from the burn pile, which you won't fully understand what that is until the end of the novel, but I will say what you are inferring is probably correct. I do think that going into this book, you should keep in mind that the discussions around identity and religion is clearly written for a younger audience, but I thought it was pretty well done and was something that a lot of young adults could resonate with. Secluded Cabin Sleep 6 by Lisa Ugner. When I first hauled this book, I remember saying that the title bugged me because it was grammatically incorrect. I thought it should be The Secluded Cabin Sleep 6 instead of Secluded Cabin Sleep 6, but one of you guys actually kindly informed me that you thought the title was supposed to be like a listing you would see on, say, Airbnb or something. Like, Beach house sleeps 4, mountain lodge sleeps 3, secluded cabin sleeps 6. I swear you guys are smarter than me. I was trying to be a part of the grammar police out here and you guys quickly humbled me. Thank you for that. This thriller starts off with following Hannah as she and her husband, Hannah's brother and wife, and Hannah's best friend and new boyfriend all rent a luxurious cabin isolated in the woods for a relaxing weekend getaway. Unfortunately, as a storm starts to brew outside, long-held secrets leads tension to fester inside, and Hannah's simple life of being a stay-at-home mom is uprooted as she quickly tries to figure out whom she can and cannot trust before this weekend turns deadly. Since the synopsis markets this as a weekend getaway, I thought the story was going to take place at least over a few days, so I was a bit thrown off course when this only took place over one evening. And it felt to me, at least, that the author was trying to immerse the readers into the story by drawing out the evening, but that ended up being the book's downfall because it felt dragged out. I think if the author wrote the story so that it took place over a couple of days instead of one evening, and also included more activities the couples could partake in instead of just having them lounge around the evening all day, the book would have been more engaging. I'd highly recommend looking up trigger warnings for this book, especially because one thing in particular kept happening to multiple characters. And it's like you reach a certain point where you start to question if that really was necessary, because to me that veered a bit too close to just being included as a plot device for shock value. One more thing I have to rant about this book. I have a lot to say because I just recently finished this, so everything's all nice and fresh up here. Okay, I am no medical expert, unless you count taking a veterinary science class for 2 years as having medical expertise, but let's just say I would not trust Lisa Ugner to care for a wound if, say, let's hope not, I was in a situation in which I was profusely bleeding out. Listen up, friends, to non-Dr. Elizabeth. If one is quickly trying to stop bleeding, do not keep changing the bandage, cause blood will not be able to clot and one will continue bleeding out. Pressure needs to be kept on the wound at all times. But again, what do I know? Besides stopping bleeding. Anyways, honestly, all of that wasn't that significant in the book, but I just cringed a bit while reading that scene. On to what worked for me in this book. The dysfunctional family. If you want an atypical dysfunctional family, that is what you'll find in here. I don't want to spoil anything, but I am not necessarily referring to the main family we follow as being the dysfunctional ones. That's all I'm going to say. I also really enjoyed how the short chapters kept me reading because it felt like I was flying through the book. The element in this book that drove the thriller aspect, I was not expecting to be in here, so that was surprising. I'm purposely being vague, but although that element I feel like could have been fleshed out a bit more, I still enjoyed reading about it in here. I feel like I have more negative things to say about this book than positive things, so maybe that's an indicator that I should lower my rating. This was like a low 3.75, high 3.5. The Island by Adrian McKenty I gave 4 stars. I have to hand it to this book for getting me excited for summer. There's no other way I would have rather kicked off summer than by reading about a family vacation to the outback gone wrong. In this thriller, we follow recently married Tom and Heather Baxter, who booked this Australian vacation to spend quality family time making memories with Tom's 2 kids. Heather is especially hoping that this trip will enable her to bond with the kids and start to feel truly a part of the family. But one morning while the Baxters are out and about, they meet a couple of fellas who they talk into giving them a lift to the Forbidden Island just off the coast. Once they get there, the Baxters quickly finds themselves trapped on this island with the not so welcoming, tightly knit clan of people who live there. If the TV show Lost was made a domestic thriller, this is what would result. I found it refreshing how at the beginning of the book, the children who are like 12 or 13 actually acted like how I would think 12 and 13-year-olds would act nowadays. At that age, you are so impressionable, and I could already see how society had influenced these kids, which, you know, is sadly not great, but realistic. But then as the book went on, the children started regressing or something. And maybe that was from all of the trauma they were experiencing, but I had to keep going back to remind myself how old these kids were. Like, if the kids got switched and that wasn't revealed till the very end, I would have believed it because the kids started acting like completely different people. Heather was such a strong character in here. I would not know how to deal if I was in her shoes. Oh man, she had to go through a lot while also putting on a brave face in front of the kids. Something that really stuck out to me in here was how the author described food, and I don't mean that as a compliment. I only noticed this because every single time he brought up what they were eating, he would just point blank describe it as good or bad. Adrian McKenty would set up the sentence to make it seem like he was about to describe why it was good or why it was bad, but then he would just say, it was good. I wanted to know why it was good, why it was bad. Was it salty, sweet, flavorful? Come on, man, you just gotta give me something. And if this only happened once or twice, I wouldn't have thought much about it, but he kept describing food that way in a fairly short period of time, which I thought was a bit odd. But overall, this was a pretty fun summer read. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, that's the first one, right? I read for the first time audibly. Now, I had seen a couple of the movies back in the day and had played the DS Lego game when I was like 8, but I had never read the books. And for being the first book that drew in a large adult and young adult audience, I knew I always wanted to give it a go sometime and see what that was. I'm sure most of you guys know the basic premise of Harry Potter. There's this boy who finds out he's a wizard and is shipped off to Hogwarts, the school of wizardry and whatnot. I don't think I've had so much fun listening to an audiobook. The story was cute, wholesome, a bundle of joy, honestly. And since I've seen the first movie a couple of times, I could vividly picture the story happening in my head. Was this absolutely the best book ever? No, but it was fun, entertaining, and I can see why the series is beloved by many. I definitely give it a go if you were on defense, because I was too, and look at me now. I'm continuing the series, though I'm considering switching to physically reading the books since that's my preferred method of reading. But then again, I had an absolute blast listening to it audibly, so I don't know. Let me know what you guys think I should do. It's about that time in the video where my battery needed a little change, but we are back and rolling. I've been so overdue for a TJR read. You guys can probably tell, but something I do a lot is I will put off books by my favorite authors because I worry I won't like them. Why is that? I don't know. There's probably some psychological phenomenon to explain it, but obviously, not a psychologist. It's almost like I'm protecting myself from disappointment. I think I might be onto something there. Maybe in another life, I gave 4.25 stars. For most of the book, it was shaping up to be a 4.5, leaning 5 star, but then came the ending. It was a disappointment. This book deserved more. I didn't absolutely hate how it ended, but I just felt like something more needed to happen. I did really love the discussions around life and the effects of the decisions you make in life. This book essentially portrays a woman's life in 2 different parallel universes following the outcome of a decision she makes one night. And so in each of her lives, she has a different romantic interest. And TJR out here really kept me flip-flopping between which man I liked better. In one chapter, I'd be like, yep, this is her soulmate. And then the next, I'd be like, no, Sarah, clearly these two are meant to be together. I do have a favorite now. I'm on Team Ethan. That even surprised me because who doesn't want a guy like the other one, right? I don't want to say much, but the other one's pretty fun. That history between Hannah and Ethan, though, just tugged on the heartstrings. That's all I can say without heading into spoiler territory. This book does get kind of repetitive at times, and by at times I really mean at the end. But still, if you're a butterfly effect theory lover, such as myself, I'd highly recommend checking this book out. I don't know if you guys are ready for my 5-star of the month. I know it's an unpopular opinion, but this actually won't come as much of a surprise if you know me. Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun by El Cosmano. I had been hearing that the third Finley Donovan was not it, and so I prepared myself. I was ready for disappointment. But guys, I loved every bit of this. I loved the humor, of course. I loved the characters and their dynamics. I loved the camp, let's call it, the characters went to. It was all so fun. I never thought I would be a fan of the love triangle trope, but tell me why a cozy mystery series has made me a fan of the love triangle trope. Also, even though it's been like almost a year since I last read a book from the Finley Donovan series, everything came back fairly easily since El Cosmano reminded us what previously happened pretty early on, which I really appreciated because some books that are a part of a series will string you along for like 150 pages before you start to understand what's happening. This book was my congratulations, you are done with finals read, and I'm really glad that I saved this for a time when I wasn't swamped and stressed, so I could really bask in its glory and have the optimal reading experience. One of, if not my favorite series, deserves best. I really thought that this book was going to be the series' downfall because I kept hearing all of these negative reviews, but I have come to realize there are those that absolutely adore the Finley Donovan series, I am one of them, and those that don't. And if you are one of those that don't, just remember, it's okay to be wrong sometimes. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I never really mean that, guys. I do still stand by the first book in the series being the best, but I've had just as much fun reading the other 2 installments. I thought this was great, and that is a hill I will die on, whilst clutching the entire series. I can't wait for the 4th installment, as long as it's not the last book in the series. I don't think I can take the series ending. I don't think I have the emotional capacity. The Finley Donovan books always reignite my love for reading. I love them so much. All right, my temporary DNF of the month was Free Food for Millionaires by Min-Jin Lee. I'm going to try to pick this up again in June, since this was the book my friend bought me for our monthly book swap club, which we had to put on hiatus for a bit because of school, finals, all that jazz. And so I would feel bad if I never finished the book. Let me tell you what this book is about. This novel starts off with following Casey Hahn after she is kicked out of her parents' house and now finds herself trying to get by on her own while also trying to avoid the glamorous Manhattan lifestyle she can't afford. And as the story goes on, this supposedly talks about community, religion, materialism, and more. I've read so far 200 pages and I've just found it boring. And I'm not going to say that it's poorly written because I don't think it is necessarily, but I will say that it's not the best or easiest writing to read, which I hate saying, and maybe I shouldn't even say because I'm not a writer. I would struggle writing a 300-page novel, let alone a 700-page one. And this book does have some beautiful prose, but it's also really confusing to read at times. For example, the author would use he or her in a sentence multiple times without ever referring to who the author was talking about in the first place. Reading this book felt like a chore, and no one likes chores. Well, for the most part. I need to motivate myself before picking this up again. Hopefully that will be in June, but time will tell. Way to end on a sour note, Sarah. Here is my May book stack. Do we count temporary DNFs in our book stack? I don't think so. I did not absolutely hate any books this month, so I'd call it a successful month. Even if my only standout was this beauty right here. She was clearly my favorite. Y'all know the drill though. Let me know your favorite from May down in the comments below. That's one way I can learn about new amazing books to read, discuss, and then share further. Y'all give the best book recommendations because you guys know me. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. It really does help me and my channel out a lot. You can also comment, interact, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. I'd really appreciate it. Again, make sure to check out Hannah Elise if you want some cute bookish items. All of this makes me so happy. I hope you guys have had a great reading month and I hope you've had a fantastic day and I will see you in my next one. Bye.